The Johnsky is a YouTube channel run by and run for people over the age of 13. People under the age of 13 should click off of this video right now, or watch with a parent or guardian. Viewer discretion is advised.
You don't scare me!
Miltus frickin' today, militiamen. My name is King Prime. Welcome back to another video here on the YouTube channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at another Star Wars The Vintage Collection figure, that being the Star Wars The Vintage Collection Deluxe Ahsoka Sabine Wren. Now, before we take a look at this figure and also discern whether or not it belongs as a deluxe figure, let's take a look at what it comes in. So, of course, up at the top there, we have the nice Ahsoka logo in that blood red that we're used to with these Vintage Collection figures. We have Sabine's name, of course, as well as that retro Kenner-esque sticker. We also have an actual photo of the figure and the Loft Cat included as well. Down at the bottom, we have the Kenner logo, and on the back, we have that same photo from the front, just with the complete layout of what comes with this figure. Same logo up at the top as well. At the bottom, we have some legal jargon, and that is about it. I say it in every single video, my friends, but you only really care about the packaging if you're a carded or boxed collector, of which I am not. I'm here to open and review toys, and that is just what I'm going to do. Freeze frame.
There's not much room on the walls of the ghost anymore. She's painted all over them. Why not just use a canvas? A what?
You know, a canvas?
Canvas fit in your mouth.
He got you good, Obi-Wan.
Freeze frame on freeze. So here is Sabine out of the packaging. But before we take a look at her, let's take a look at what she comes with. Oh boy, where do I begin? So, firstly, as you can see, there are plenty of accessories here to justify the deluxe price point. However, there is just so much to talk about, and we're going to talk about it. So, first accessory we have is the satchel that she kind of brings with her, that has, you know, all her stuff, as well as, you know, that nice Spectre symbol there, the original Rebel logo from Rebels, that I do like. Very nice detail. Not picked out in paint at all. Nothing is picked out on paint on this, which is kind of unfortunate, especially since there are buckles and stuff that could be painted. This also doesn't even open, which is kind of cringe. I've seen many satchels and bags of this scale which do open and store stuff, and she does have plenty of stuff to store. Why we can't store it in here, I don't know. But, of course, you can give this to Sabine. You can just throw it around her arm, throw it over her neck, and there she goes. She's wearing the satchel. Her next accessory is, of course, her paint gun or spray paint. I can't exactly remember what this is called in lore, but this is just essentially a spray paint thing. And she can, of course, hold that as well. So she can, you know, vandalize some TIE fighters or whatever. This is not something that she actually did in the show. But considering that is essential to her character, I will give them props for actually including this. I like this accessory. It would just be nice if there was, you know, someplace to store it. Which is, yeah. Next, of course, we do have her dual West-Star pistols, which are very nice and painted as they were in the show. I love when there are character-specific weapons that are picked out in paint and stuff like this, and this figure did not slouch on that fact. In fact, based off the next accessory we will look at, we can very much tell that they didn't. But Sabine, of course, can hold both of these in her hands, and she can also store them on the holsters that she has on either of her hips, which are great. I do like when there is storage for weapons on characters. The next accessory, of course, is my favorite. As you know, I love whenever these are included. The unextended hilt for her lightsaber. This is Ezra's, and I will always know it as Ezra's second saber. But since it was passed down to Sabine, this is Sabine's now. And being the unextended hilt, it can actually plug into her belt. As you can see, there is a hole right there on her belt. That peg on the saber can just peg right into that. And you have some storage for the saber, which is very nice. And of course, her final accessory, that is, you know, just her accessory, is the green extended lightsaber, which is also nice to see. And of course, being a lightsaber, she can hold it like she did in the show whenever she got her ass handed to her. but she can, of course, hold it, which is good. And then the other accessory, I will call it an accessory for now, because I have much to say about this, is her helmet, which admittedly is painted very nice and does function with the range finder. However, yeah, you might be saying, King Prime, you know there's a giant crack in your helmet. No, this isn't a crack, this is a cut, because I put this helmet on Sabine, and her head got stuck in it, and it came out of the peg, and I couldn't get it out. So I had to actually cut this thing off of her, which is a damn shame. And on top of that, after doing it, and even before, this thing is like a... This thing's fucking awful. I mean, who greenlit this joke? I don't mean to be this harsh, because I know Hasbro, they can put out some good stuff, and I do love this figure, truthfully. I'll say that right now. But this is it is just awful. As you can see, the helmet is very oversized whenever she wears it. It's not even close to what a female Mandalorian helmet is supposed to look like when being worn. This looks like Funko Pop. I swear to God. That's exactly what this looks like. Oh, it's so bad. I'm not even going to use this. I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to leave it off for pretty much ever. I don't plan on ever using it. And then the final accessory is the Loth Cat we see that is living with Sabine in the Spire on Lothal. It is cute. I do like Loth Cats. It does actually have articulation, which is cool. It has a ball joint head, I believe. Yeah, ball joint. It's just that this is a useless accessory. Like, no one needs this. And worse than that is that this is pretty much the only thing that could have possibly driven this figure up accessory-wise, not including the value of the accessories, but in the quantity from a regular release to a deluxe figure. And that is awful marketing, and that's really sleazy, and I don't like it. Not saying this is a bad accessory, but this was not necessary. Everyone knows it's not necessary, and it's really scummy for Hasbro to drive up the price to include this in this release. But moving on to Sabine herself. So Sabine does have a pretty striking resemblance to Natasha Liu. I do like the way that this head sculpt turned out. It does look very manufactured, and from some angles it does look kind of uncanny. But overall, I would say that it's pretty good, especially from like angles like this. It looks just like her. Her hair is, of course, picked out in purple and has a little bit of a wash just to give it a little bit more depth, not just being flat, cartoonish purple. And I do like that detail. Makes it look a little bit more realistic. The armor detailing on this figure is above and beyond phenomenal. Super good. I can't really get in any closer than I can right now, and especially since the light is going to hate me if I do that. You can see the purple and orange and burgundy striping, kind of mixing all of the different seasons of Sabine's character into one design for Ahsoka. And that continues all the way onto her shoulder pads, where she has what I believe to be a Purrgil, actually, which, you know, is kind of reminiscent of how the show ended, but, you know, also a callback to Rebels. I do like this very much. On her other shoulder, she does have the sigil of the New Republic, I believe, since it has the lines going around it, or it could just be the Rebellion logo. It doesn't really matter. It's the same thing. On the back, those stripes do continue, which is great to see. Going down to her gauntlets, though, she does have those nice little details on there picked out in yellow. I'm not really quite sure what these are. I should know, considering I love Rebels, and Sabine is a member of that crew, but I don't. So if someone would like to enlighten me on what these details actually are, I would be open to hearing it in the comments below. On her belt, she does, of course, have buckles picked out in silver, but there's rivets on either of her belt loops there, as well as those pouches and other rivets and stuff like that aren't picked out. In fact, the entire belt is kind of flat. This could have used a wash itself, but it's not a super huge deal that it doesn't have one, personally. I just think it would look pretty good if it did. Going down there, of course, she does have some detailing on her undersuit, you know, on her thighs and pockets and things like that on her legs. This might be actually be padding from the suit. I'm not quite sure. Again, not super expert on Sabine's costume design. Going down to her shins and her knee pads, she does have detailing on those as well. This one's kind of picked out in a kind of bluish gray with some burgundy knee pads, as well as this one, which is orange and burgundy with some silver as well. Going down to feet armoring and things like that. And overall, it works pretty well. This is definitely one of the better detailed figures that I've seen from the Vintage Collection line. I do like it a lot. I think it's detailed super, super well. But moving on to the articulation, Sabine does, of course, have a dumbbell joint at the head, and it actually is a small dumbbell joint, so she can get the action in there, which is very nice to see. She does have a 4-range of motion at the shoulder. It can go all the way out, despite the armor. Even though this is armor, it is soft plastic, so it can move out of the way. Again, kind of hindering going all the way around in that 360 motion, but it can get past it if you just push. Might be a little scary, but I think that this plastic will actually be able to take it. She does have a bend at the elbow, which is good, and it can swivel there. She has rotation at the wrist, but unfortunately that is it. Much like our previous review, Morgan Elsbeth, this figure does have those old Clone Wars styled peg wrists, which is ridiculous because it is not hard to fit a joint in there. I thought that there would be joints in here initially, but there aren't, and that really bugs me for some reason. I don't know why these female figures have no wrist articulation, probably because of the thinness of the wrists, but there is a way around that for sure. I don't believe skipping out on that wrist articulation is warranted, no matter how good this figure may look. She does also have a kind of diaphragm joint, and that's all you're going to get at her waist. So she can get her reps in, but that's about it. And it really only works backwards to arch her back. So Shin Hati might enjoy that, or maybe Ezra, depending on your preference. But nothing at the waist proper, unfortunately, only at the diaphragm. At her hips, she does have those nice ball-jointed hips. And mind the angle here, however, the spread of the legs are actually kind of hindered by the holsters there. If you move them out of the way, you can get it a little bit more, but not really. I wouldn't force that. It's good enough where it is anyway. She does have an upper thigh cut, of course, so she can get a swivel there, as well as a knee bend, and that can, of course, swivel as well. She has an ankle pivot, a foot down and a foot up, which are perfectly adequate, and that is pretty much it for the articulation. So a little bit less than what we are used to. Personally, that wristing really bugs me because this figure would otherwise be 100% perfect, but of course there's got to be something wrong with it to make me upset. But moving on from Sabine, let's get some other figures in here to show exactly how she stacks up. Freeze frame.
Odds you come back in the next season of Boba Fett.
Yes. Everybody's got that answer.
Wrong. They're not making a second season of that show.
Freeze frame on freeze. Here is Sabine next to the golden standard of action figures himself, Dark Times Darth Vader. Here she is next to our previous review, Morgan Elsbeth. Here she is next to our previous review, who I will include because he is a Rebels villain after all, the Grand Inquisitor. Here she is next to a Vitruvian Hax skeleton. And here she is next to a Mandalorian of my own design. So overall, Sabine is pretty much average height for a female Vintage Collection figure. She's kind of shorter than anybody. In fact, she kind of is shorter than most people. She looks to be a head shorter than the Grand Inquisitor, but I promise, taking my phone off of the tripod for a second, that is very much not the case. It only looks like it. She comes up to about mid-head on him. Other than that, she is towered over by everyone, even almost by the Vitruvian Hax skeleton, which is crazy to see. So she is pretty small, which is fine. That just means that she stacks up to everyone, because Sabine wasn't even that tall to begin with. But that's enough for the scale. Let's get on to our final thoughts so I can tell you exactly what I think about Sabine. Freeze frame.
Tore me apart. But I learned an important lesson. You can't count on anyone, especially your heroes.
Freeze frame on freeze. So overall, this figure is really good, but it is so far from being perfect and even farther from being deluxe. I think that I am of the mind where, despite the figure having a premium deco, and don't get me wrong, this deco is premium, what is included with this figure and the mistakes that have been made on it are in no way even close to being worth, what was it, $29 now is a deluxe figure, which is fucking crazy. There is no way this figure should have been worth more than that. And now with the Star Wars Rebels version, which is going to have the retooling and all that stuff to make her look like her Season 3 appearance from Rebels, I couldn't even justify buying the figure for that price either. Would I recommend this figure? Hell yes, especially to a Rebels fan. But not for base retail, not for MSRP, because this figure is just... While there is so much good with it, there's also so much bad. Some things I forgot to mention is that there is no peg on her back for a jetpack. I know for a fact that she should still have one. I don't know why she doesn't. On top of the fiasco with the helmet is just awful. So bad. And the Loth Cat driving up the price of this figure just really grinds my gears. This figure could have absolutely been regular release and no one would have batted an eye. Least of all me, who has been waiting for these Rebels figures to drop for so long now. And even though we got them under the banner of Ahsoka, I was still excited to get them, and I can't help but feel just a little bit disappointed about this one. But if my criticisms haven't swayed you, or you like Sabine, you like Ahsoka, you like Star Wars Rebels, you like Star Wars in general, make sure you share this video with your friends, share it with Facebook groups, all that good stuff. If you like the content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It keeps helping the channel grow, keeps helping me pump out this content. That's going to be pretty much it for this time, my friends. Thank you all so very much for watching, and as always, peace.